Hello! Happy day 27. I'm making this video a little later in the day, and I feel like my work this morning is very far away. But I did do it, and um, actually, yesterday, after I posted the video and I shared it to Facebook, um, Gabe was over at his computer with all the kids, and they're like, "Oh, there's Mama. Let's have like a movie night, And so they press play on the video, and they all watched it, which I've read a couple paragraphs. So the last 2 days I've read, and it's been like kind of to be continued, sorts of. Wasn't set up as to be continued, but they've continued. So anyway, right when it was over, I listened to myself and I watched them, and they all stared intently and were listening. So I'm like, well, that's good. Anyway, and then Elle came over right away, and she was like, you have to tell them who he was and what happened. And I was like, babe, that was 2 paragraphs out of a 400-page manuscript, like a 400-page book. That was 2 paragraphs. So, I can't read them the whole book. It's not done, and it's just, anyway. So I am going to go ahead and read you a couple more paragraphs that follow what I read yesterday. Then we will be done with this. And I promise you, I've been hit on 3 times in my whole life. So what these paragraphs are, if they're not even relevant to the story, ultimately they're going to come out, but whatever. It's written and it's there, and so I'm sharing that with you. So Elle, though, I think it's relevant now because Elle was concerned with that what happened, and she's also in what I'm going to read to you today. So let me bring up my manuscript, which you guys can look at me while I'm looking at the manuscript. And here we go. So this is picking up not exactly where we left off yesterday. I'm not going to read you everything, but this is a little bit that I edited today, and it comes, let's see, 1, 2, this is about 3 paragraphs later after what I read you yesterday. Okay, here we go. So while I was busy stumbling over my response, he sat down opposite me at the little table. Can't he see my ring? I thought, perplexed. I was beyond confused. He told me about staring from his car window and how he thought he'd seen his future wife, so decided to come over. For a moment there, I was relieved when I'd heard the words his and wife until my brain pieced it all together and also recalled the word future. I realized he was talking about me. I'd love to report that I was more composed, elegant, or cool, but I was perplexed. I probably stared at him as he first spoke like Grant used to stare at me in freshman study hall. A bit out of breath, he expressed how much more breathtaking I was up close by way of my eyes and my skin. No pun intended. He did say that, and his breaths were somewhat rapid and shallow. He kept touching his hand to his chest as he spoke, and he spoke quickly and in fragmented sentences. It seemed real, like he meant the things he said. He could look at me and hold eye contact for a couple seconds, but then he'd look away, seemingly flustered, and continue talking. Then there was a little knock on the window to our right that came from the yogurt shop. I looked in the direction of it to see Elle's bright and pale face. She looked like an angel or a ghost. A full view of her was a struggle to see past the reflection of the street scene in the glass. She must have caught a glimpse of the visitor at my table, or likely True had, and inquired aloud about it. Like a camp robber or raccoon, she came to investigate. She was propped up on both hands, atop a bar-height counter that served as street view seating for guests, with her knees in the stool. All 3 kids had been sitting at a small table further inside the shop, facing the opposite direction when I'd left them there, staring up at the TV. Elle now had her face as close to the glass as she could get it, to be sure to see all she could, and also to be sure she was seen. I looked up at her sweet, curious face, smiled, and waved. I looked back to Tom and extended my right hand. I'm Jenny Candelaria, I said, and there are 3 kids of mine in there whose dad I'm married to. I smiled kindly while shaking his hand. He smiled back, defeated. He had to try, he'd said. He also said that he'd been searching for 42 years and couldn't quit. I told him that I heard him and it'd be worth it. He said it was worth it to know that I was alive, and how could he have possibly thought that I'd not be married? He seemed a bit tricked by the universe when he stood up to leave. I thanked him and let him know that he could feel good for making my day and that I appreciated his time. So those were 2 paragraphs that I worked on today. Already, as I'm reading them, like, there are things that I would change. And so in a future past, I will, and maybe they won't even be in the book at all. But it gives you a sampling of my writing. And today's the 27th day, and I've darn near done this for 30 days in a row. And I can tell you this, I'm not going to be done on April 1st. I might not be done on May 1st. I don't know. It's going to take a while. So there's that, and I don't know how long I'm going to do this video diary. Anyway, if I'm going to just do it until the end of this part of the process. Let me know what you think. Am I crazy? Shorter videos? What should I talk about? Should I stop this madness? I don't know. Anyway, I feel called to do it. I'll see you tomorrow. If you have a question, please ask.